Picture this: you're alone, surrounded by quiet. No distractions, just the weight of your own breath and the echo of your thoughts. Everything feels peaceful, until out of nowhere, a memory pierces the calm like a flash of lightning across a still sky. You aren't searching for it, you didn't summon it. But there it is. Maybe it's an old betrayal that still scorches your chest when you remember it. Maybe it's a breakup that left pieces of you scattered in ways you never fully recovered from. Or maybe it's a regret, the kind that trails behind you like a shadow no matter how far you run. Do any of these feel familiar? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share might just shift everything you thought you knew about pain. There is a deep, ancient truth buried within you, one that Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, spent his life uncovering. A truth that doesn't just offer relief from haunting memories, but something even more powerful: release. A kind of inner freedom that unchains your soul from the pain you thought would follow you forever. And the most amazing part? This truth already lives inside you. It's always been there, quietly waiting for the moment you were ready to see it. This isn't about wishful thinking or vague affirmations meant to soothe your wounds with empty comfort. No. This is about real, transformative understanding. It's about a radical inner shift that begins not with ignoring your past, but by finally looking it straight in the eye. Carl Jung didn't just study the human mind, he ventured deep into the soul. He believed that inside every human being is an entire universe, a hidden world behind the curtain of our conscious mind. And that world holds the key to your peace. You see, your unconscious mind isn't just a storehouse of forgotten dreams or random thoughts. It's the keeper of your story. Every joy, every heartbreak, every unhealed wound you've tried to hide beneath your smile, even the moments you swore you had moved on from, they still live there, tucked into the corners of your inner world. Jung didn't teach us to bury these things deeper. He taught us to listen, to lean in, to see the messages pain is trying to deliver. What if the ache you feel isn't a sign of weakness or failure, but a sacred message? A whisper from your soul asking to be seen? Jung believed that pain was a signal, an invitation to heal. And the memories that hurt the most? They're not random. They're the ones holding the map to your healing. So let me ask you this. What have you been avoiding? What story do you keep rewriting in your head, hoping the ending will change? Because today, we begin the work of setting yourself free, not by forgetting what happened, but by honoring what it taught you. Think about it. How many times have you felt like something invisible keeps pulling you back? Like no matter how hard you try, something inside whispers, "You're not good enough. You'll mess it up again. You'll mess it up again." Jung had a name for that voice. He called it the shadow. And that shadow, the hidden side of yourself, isn't here to destroy you. It's here to reveal you. Your shadow isn't some evil presence lurking in the dark. It's the side of you that's been silenced, shamed, or forgotten. It's made of every feeling you've pushed away, every part of yourself you've deemed unacceptable. It's your fear of not being loved, your memories of rejection, the guilt that creeps in when you think you've failed. It's the voice that tells you to hide your truth. But Carl Jung taught that this shadow doesn't appear to break you. It shows up to guide you, to wake you. Every painful memory that resurfaces is your shadow saying, "See me, know me, heal me." And what happens if, instead of turning away, you finally choose to face it? What if you stopped blaming the people who hurt you, not to excuse them, but to understand what their presence awakened within you? Imagine holding a memory of someone who deeply hurt you, not to relive the pain, but to ask, "What were you here to show me about myself?" That's where true self-awareness begins. Not by running from your pain, but by meeting it like a teacher. Let's pause. Breathe with me. Inhale and release. Feel the ground beneath you. You're here, and that matters. Now call to mind someone who wounded you, someone who left a scar you rarely talk about, but always feel. Jung would say that this person, as cruel or careless as they may have been, mirrored something hidden within your own soul. Maybe a childhood fear, a desperate hunger for love, an old wound never acknowledged. And while it hurts to admit, sometimes it's those exact encounters that hold the key to your healing. This doesn't mean that what they did was right. Not at all. This isn't about letting anyone off the hook. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that got lost in the hurt. Because as long as you carry that pain without understanding it, you keep handing your power over to those who caused it. But the moment you say, "I will learn from this, I will grow from this," the power returns to you. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's healing. Jung believed that our unconscious speaks to us constantly, not through words, but through emotion, images, and experiences. Those flashbacks you get, the dreams that leave you shaken, even the anxious pit in your stomach when a certain song plays, they're all signals, messages from the shadow, waiting for you to tune in. Healing begins when you stop seeing your past as an enemy and start seeing it as your guide. Now, let's talk about something tender and often misunderstood: self-love. Or perhaps more truthfully, the aching emptiness where self-love should be. How many times have you looked at your reflection and seen only the flaws? How many moments have you handed someone else the power to determine your worth? Jung would say that every time you betray yourself for acceptance, you bury a part of your soul. And those buried parts, they become the shadow. They become the pain you carry in silence. Somewhere along the way, someone convinced you that you had to earn love, that you had to be perfect to be worthy. And so, you began to silence the parts of yourself that didn't fit the mold. The awkwardness, the messiness, the moments of weakness, you tucked them away, thinking you were doing the right thing. But Jung would say that by hiding those parts, you didn't make them disappear. You gave them power. And now they speak to you through hesitation, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. Let's bring that shadow into the light. Think back to a time when you were told you weren't good enough. Maybe it was a harsh teacher, a critical parent, or someone you loved who pointed out your flaws more than your strengths. Those words may have only taken a moment to say, but their echo still lives in you. You might not even realize it, but every time you hesitate to try, to speak, to show up fully, it's that old echo whispering, "Don't bother. You'll fail again." But here's where things change. Because right now, you have the choice to stop living from the story someone else wrote for you. You can write your own. Jung believed that the moment we become conscious of our unconscious beliefs, we are no longer bound by them. That's what individuation is. The process of becoming whole, not perfect. Whole. And wholeness comes when we bring both our light and our darkness into harmony. Not one without the other, but both together. Let me take you into the forest of the mind, the place Jung said holds the truth of who we are. It's thick with memories, tangled in emotions, and sometimes covered in fog. You walk unsure, nervous, maybe afraid, but then in the quiet, you hear it, that inner voice. Not the one that criticizes, but the one that gently urges, "Keep going." That voice is the unconscious trying to lead you toward healing. But to hear it, you must stop running from yourself. You must sit with the things that scare you most. Maybe right now there's a specific memory that's stirring inside you, one that tightens your chest just thinking about it. Don't run from it. Hold it. Jung would say that the very memories you avoid are the keys to unlocking the peace you long for. Because transformation doesn't happen by denying pain. It happens when you move through it with intention, with awareness, and most importantly, with love. So, let me ask you, when was the last time you felt truly, fully yourself? Not the version you show the world, not the one molded by expectations, but the raw, unfiltered soul underneath it all. If you can't remember, that's okay. Most people can't. That's why we do this work. That's why we explore the shadow. To remove the layers that never belonged to us and return home to the person we were always meant to be. Let me share something deeply personal. There was a time in my life when a decision I made in fear left a deep scar. I walked away from a relationship, not because I didn't care, but because I was terrified. Terrified that I wasn't enough, that I would eventually be abandoned, so I abandoned first. And for years after, that moment haunted me. I couldn't explain the ache in my chest every time I thought of it. It was a silent regret that clung to me like fog. I kept telling myself I'd moved on, but deep down, I hadn't. Then one day, I stopped running. I sat with that pain. I stopped pretending it didn't matter. I wrote it out. I spoke about it. I gave it shape and sound. And in that quiet space, I realized it wasn't about that other person. It was about me, about the belief that I was unlovable, inadequate, flawed. That belief had been running the show all along, and for the first time, I saw it clearly, not as truth, but as a story I had unknowingly agreed to. That moment changed everything. So now, I ask you, what memory are you carrying that you're finally ready to face? What story have you been telling yourself over and over again, hoping the pain would go away if you just stopped thinking about it? Jung's teachings invite us not to forget those memories, but to rewrite the meaning they hold. Because that's where healing lives, in the reinterpretation. In the conscious act of saying, this happened, but it does not define who I am anymore. Healing doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. It means facing what isn't okay with open eyes and a brave heart. It means walking into the center of your pain and saying, you no longer control me. Jung called this work the confrontation with the unconscious. It's not a surface-level journey. It's deep, messy, beautiful, and it transforms not only your pain, but your entire experience of being alive. You stop surviving your story, and you begin to live it differently. If you're still here, still listening, still breathing through this, then I know something about you. You're ready. You're not here by accident. The voice inside of you that brought you to this moment, that quiet knowing, it's your soul asking for more. More clarity, more honesty, more peace. And I promise you, that peace is not as far away as it feels. It begins the moment you stop pretending and start being real with yourself first. Let's talk about relationships. Because for most of us, that's where our deepest pain is born. Maybe you loved someone who left without explanation, or maybe you trusted someone who turned away when you needed them most. What did you do with that pain? Did you bury it? Did you try to outrun it with distractions, accomplishments, or new people? If so, you're not alone. But Jung warned us, what we don't deal with in the conscious mind will find its way into our unconscious, and it will keep showing up until we finally pay attention. Pain doesn't disappear just because we pretend it's not there. It settles in quietly, waiting in the corners of our unconscious, shaping how we think, how we feel, how we love. Maybe you've noticed it in your relationships. The fear that surfaces when someone gets too close, the reflex to shut down when you feel vulnerable, or the walls you build so high that even you forget what you're hiding behind them. These aren't coincidences, they're echoes of unhealed wounds still whispering from the shadow. Carl Jung taught that our unconscious mind speaks in symbols, in patterns, in emotional loops. So if you find yourself repeating the same kind of relationship, drawing the same kind of pain into your life, it's not random. It's your psyche crying out, there's something here you haven't healed yet. It's not bad luck, it's a mirror. And the reflection is asking you to look deeper, not at them, but at you. At the part of you that's still believing you don't deserve more. Let me tell you a real story. A subscriber once wrote to me, heartbroken. I always fall for people who leave, she said. I don't know why it keeps happening. And I gently invited her to look inward. to trace the thread of that pain back to its root. What she uncovered was a childhood memory, standing alone in a kitchen, waiting for someone who never showed up. That wound never healed. It just matured into a pattern. But once she saw it, truly saw it, she could begin to change it. Not overnight, but moment by moment, with compassion and courage. So I'll ask you, what emotional pattern keeps repeating in your life? What lesson have you been circling around without fully stepping into? This isn't about blame. It's about insight. It's about taking back the pen and writing a new chapter. One that's not controlled by your past, but informed by your healing. One where you are no longer unconsciously reenacting the same old pain, but consciously choosing what you invite into your life. Let's pause together. Close your eyes if you feel safe. Bring to mind someone who hurt you deeply, someone who still lives in your thoughts, even if you wish they didn't. Imagine them standing before you now, and from a place of inner power, not bitterness. What would you say to them? Maybe it's, "You hurt me, but I won't carry that pain forever." Or, "You left me, but I'm choosing to stay with myself." This isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about releasing your grip on the story that has kept you small. When you do this, when you imagine the scene, when you let your soul speak, you're doing shadow work. You're beginning to integrate the parts of yourself that were frozen in time. Jung taught that healing comes through integration, not erasure. You don't forget what happened. You grow bigger than it. You become someone who carries your past, not as a burden, but as a badge of wisdom. You start to reclaim your voice, and with it, your peace. How did that feel? Even imagining that moment speaking your truth to someone who once hurt you can stir something deep. Maybe you felt a release, or maybe it brought up more sadness than you expected. Both are okay. Both are part of the work. Because beneath every memory that still stings is something sacred. Your voice, your worth, your truth. And when you allow yourself to speak, even silently in your mind, you begin the transformation from wounded to whole. At the center of this healing journey is one truth many of us struggle to accept. You are worthy of love, exactly as you are. Not once you've healed. Not once you've got it all together. Right now. Jung believed that true wholeness isn't about perfection. It's about embracing all of you. The joyful parts, the fearful parts, the broken pieces you've tried to hide. Because only when we love the totality of who we are can we begin to live from a place of deep, soul-aligned peace. But here's where most of us get stuck. Somewhere along the way, we were told that putting ourselves first was selfish. That setting boundaries meant we didn't care about others. That saying no was unkind. So, we poured ourselves out to please, to earn love, to avoid conflict. And then we wondered why we felt so drained, so lost. Let me tell you something. Jung would have said loud and clear. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is spiritual. It is sacred. It is necessary. I remember a moment when I had to say no to someone I cared about. They always expected more from me than I could give. And for the first time, I drew a boundary, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. And even though guilt followed me for days, something else followed too. Peace. I had finally chosen myself. I had finally honored my limits. That one decision shifted how I showed up in every relationship after. Because once you recognize your worth, you can never unsee it. So now, I want to ask you a question that only you can answer. What boundary do you need to set right now? Maybe it's with a person. Maybe it's with your own inner critic. Maybe it's with an old belief that keeps dragging you back into pain. Whatever it is, name it. Own it. Because when you create space for yourself to breathe, to rest, to heal, you send a message to your soul. I matter. I am enough. I deserve peace. If you've made it this far, drop it 100 in the comments. It shows you are part of the 1% that's improving every single day. Your healing doesn't just change you. It changes your world. When you begin to treat yourself with love, others feel it. When you stop abandoning yourself, you stop tolerating people who do. When you begin to see your past not as a curse, but as a classroom, you become unstoppable. And it all starts with that simple, quiet act of choosing to see your pain differently. That's the power Jung gave us. That's the power you're stepping into right now. Let's shift now into the realm of dreams, not the ones that visit you in sleep, but the ones you used to believe were possible. The kind that once lit a fire in your spirit. Maybe it was to write a book, to open your own business, to move to a new city, or to finally live on your own terms. But somewhere along the way, that dream dimmed. Not because it stopped mattering to you, but because something told you it was out of reach. Carl Jung would tell you, the past is still speaking, and you haven't stopped listening. Think of a child bursting with creativity. She paints, sings, imagines whole worlds into existence. And then, one day, someone says, "That's silly," or "You'll never make it doing that." It takes just one moment, one voice of doubt, to lodge itself in the subconscious. That memory doesn't vanish. It hides. And decades later, every time she tries to pursue that same dream, resistance shows up. Fear shows up. Not because she's not capable, but because her shadow remembers the sting of dismissal. Have you ever felt that kind of resistance? The kind that makes you second-guess your ability, your purpose, your right to pursue joy? I have. I once abandoned something I loved, because the voice of one failure echoed louder than the truth of my potential. I convinced myself I wasn't ready, that I wasn't enough. But when I finally revisited that memory with fresh eyes, I saw it for what it was. Not proof of failure, but a wound asking to be healed. And from that healing came a quiet, undeniable courage. So let me ask you now, what dream is still alive inside of you, waiting? What desire have you buried under fear, under shame, under someone else's judgment? Jung believed that these desires aren't silly or selfish. They're sacred. They're glimpses of your soul's truth. And when you ignore them, a part of you wilts. But when you water them, even with just a little hope, they begin to bloom again. Let's talk honestly. What's stealing your peace right now? Don't analyze. Just feel. Is it a draining relationship? A painful memory you've never forgiven yourself for? A quiet fear that wakes you in the middle of the night? Whatever it is, Jung would urge you not to run from it, but to lean in and ask, what are you here to teach me? Because when you stop labeling pain as something bad and start listening to it as something wise, your entire relationship with yourself begins to shift. There's a saying, your pain is not your punishment. It's your path. I believe that, and so did Jung. He believed that everything in the unconscious is trying to become conscious, not to torment you, but to set you free. Your memories, your mistakes, even your mess, they are your teachers. They aren't here to define you. They're here to guide you. And the moment you stop fighting them is the moment you begin to rise. Let's go deeper into the idea of memory. Not just how it lingers, but how it shapes the way you live. There's a reason some moments still bring a sting to your chest, even after years have passed. It's because they were never truly seen, never truly understood. Jung believed that the memories we bury don't go away. They become emotional scripts, silently running our lives behind the scenes. And unless we revisit them, they will continue to direct our choices from the shadow. So I want you to imagine something. Think back to a moment of humiliation. Maybe someone made fun of you, dismissed you, or made you feel foolish in front of others. That shame, it probably never left. It just grew quieter. But Jung would invite you to do something radical. Revisit that moment, not to relive the pain, but to rewrite your part in the story. Close your eyes. Picture yourself there again. But this time, respond differently. Stand tall. Speak with confidence. Say what you wish you had said. This visualization is not fantasy, it's healing. When I first tried this, I was skeptical. Could imagining a new outcome really change the old one? But I did it anyway. I sat with one of my oldest wounds, replayed it in my mind, and gave myself the strength I didn't have back then. The next day, I felt lighter, not completely free, but clearer, stronger, more grounded. That's the power of reclaiming the narrative. You may not control what happened, but you can control what it means. So I'll ask you now, what memory are you finally willing to rewrite today? What old scene have you carried on repeat that you're ready to see with new eyes? Don't rush the answer. Let it come, because this is your turning point. The moment you choose not to be the victim of your past, but the author of your present. You don't have to forget. You just have to forgive yourself for not knowing then what you know now. Let me be honest with you. Healing isn't a straight line. There will be setbacks. There will be days when the past knocks on your door louder than you expected. When you feel like you've made no progress at all. That's normal. That's part of the process. But Jung said that true transformation begins in those dark moments. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to awaken in me? Because the truth is this: every crack in your heart lets in more light. Every scar tells the story of a survivor, and every memory, no matter how painful, can become the soil where new strength grows. You are not broken. You are in the process of becoming whole. So take a breath, let that truth settle in, and remember, this work you're doing, it's not small, it's sacred. Now, let's talk about something that touches almost all of us: shame. It's different from guilt. Guilt says, I made a mistake, but shame says, I am the mistake. And when shame settles into the unconscious, it doesn't just stay there quietly. It becomes the lens through which you see yourself, the voice that sabotages every moment of joy, the weight that makes you feel undeserving of love. Jung understood this better than most. He taught that shame festers in silence, but when brought into the light, it loses its grip. So, I ask you, what are you ashamed of that you've never said out loud? What secret do you carry that still makes your chest tighten when you think about it? Maybe it's something you did, or something that was done to you, and maybe you've convinced yourself that if anyone ever found out, they'd leave. But here's the truth. Jung uncovered, what we hide from others is often what most needs our own compassion. And healing begins the moment we turn toward that shame, not away from it. Let me offer you something powerful. Imagine your younger self, the one who first felt that shame. Picture them standing in front of you. What would you say to them? Would you scold them? Or would you kneel, open your arms, and say, you didn't deserve to carry that, and I love you anyway? When I first did this, I wept. Not because it was painful, but because it was healing. That small act of reparenting the self, of offering grace instead of judgment, became the beginning of something I didn't even know I needed. Jung believed in what he called active imagination, a dialogue between the conscious and the unconscious, a bridge between your outer self and your shadow. And this exercise, it's one of the most direct ways to build that bridge. When you speak to your wounded self with kindness, you're no longer avoiding your shadow. You're integrating it. You're weaving those fragmented pieces back into the fabric of your wholeness. And with every word of compassion, your inner world begins to soften. So many of us walk through life armored, smiling when we want to cry, nodding when we want to scream, carrying pain in our bodies that we never had the space to release. But here, right now, you have the space, and you have the permission to feel, to be raw, to be human. You don't have to perform anymore. You don't have to hold it all together. This is your invitation to let go. Because here's what no one tells you. Your vulnerability is not your weakness. It's your doorway to strength. When you cry, when you tremble, when you say, this still hurts, you are not breaking down. You are breaking open. And what comes through those cracks isn't shame, It's truth, it's freedom. It's the light that's been waiting behind the wall of silence for far too long. Let's bring this closer to the heart now. Closer to something so many of us silently wrestle with, the fear of not being truly seen. Not just liked or accepted, but seen for who we are beneath the surface, beyond the roles we play, and past the wounds we've tried to hide. Carl Jung spoke often of masks, what he called the persona, the face we wear to survive, to fit in, to be loved. But while the persona helps us adapt to society, it can also become a prison if we forget that it's not who we really are. So, I'll ask you directly, what mask are you wearing today? Is it the mask of strength when you're quietly breaking inside? The mask of indifference when your heart is longing to be held? The mask of certainty when you're unsure of almost everything? We all wear them. But the danger is not in the mask itself. The danger is in mistaking the mask for the truth. Because the more we perform, the more we disconnect from the raw, radiant truth of our being. Peeling back the mask is terrifying. It feels like standing naked in front of the world. But what if that vulnerability is the very thing that leads to your freedom? Jung believed that wholeness isn't achieved by denying parts of ourselves. It's achieved by embracing all of them, even the ones that feel too messy, too emotional, too complicated. The parts you were told to hide are often the most sacred parts of you. They don't make you weak, they make you real. Here's a truth I've learned the hard way. The world doesn't need a polished version of you. It needs the real you, the one who feels deeply, the one who's been through the fire and still chooses to rise, the one who can say, "I'm still healing," and that's okay. When you start showing up as that person, something amazing happens. You stop attracting relationships based on your mask, and you start connecting from your truth. And those connections, they're the ones that finally feel like home. Let me tell you something beautiful. The more you heal, the more your outer world begins to reflect your inner truth. That's not a fantasy. It's what Jung called synchronicity. When your inner world aligns, the world outside you responds. The job, the partner, the peace, the purpose, they begin to flow toward you. Not because you're chasing them, but because you've cleared the shadow that was blocking them. Your healing changes the frequency you send out, and the universe always matches your frequency. So take a moment right now. Place your hand over your heart. Feel its rhythm. You are alive. You are here. You are capable of more transformation than you can possibly imagine. And none of your pain has been wasted. Every tear, every ache, every memory, it's all been leading you here, to this moment, to this awakening, to this choice. Keep pretending, or finally live from your truth. Let's talk about legacy. Not in terms of wealth or achievement, but in the quiet, invisible way your healing touches everything around you. Jung believed that we are all part of a great unfolding, an interconnected web of stories, souls, and unseen influence. When you choose to heal, you're not just doing it for yourself. You're healing the invisible thread that links you to your ancestors, your children, your community. You are ending a pattern that could have continued for generations. That's not just personal work, that's sacred work. There's someone, somewhere, who is watching how you carry your pain, how you rise, how you choose to feel instead of numb. And that someone may never tell you, but you're showing them what's possible. You're showing them that it's okay to cry, to rest, to reflect, to speak up, that it's okay to not have all the answers. Jung believed healing is contagious, not because we tell others what to do, but because our presence shifts what's possible in the lives around us. You probably heard the saying, "Be the person you needed when you were younger." That's what you're doing right now. You're becoming that, whether you know it or not. And one day, someone will look at you and say, "Because of you, I didn't give up." That's not a fantasy. That's the ripple effect of your healing. It reaches further than you'll ever see. And it starts with each moment of honesty, of bravery, of choosing to stay awake to your own light. Before we end, I want to give you something practical. An invitation, a ritual, a sacred act. Take some time today, 10 minutes, even 5, and write a letter to the version of you who was hurting, the version of you who was scared, rejected, or ashamed. Tell them what you wish someone had said back then. Tell them you see them now, that they are safe, that they are loved. And when you finish, read it out loud, not because they need to hear it, but because you do. And if it feels right, fold the letter and place it somewhere special, or burn it, and let the smoke carry the release. These acts are not symbolic. They are soul work. Jung would have called them rituals of transformation, because when you acknowledge the parts of you that were never seen, when you speak to them with love, you close a loop, you reclaim the story, and you take one more step toward becoming who you were always meant to be. So here we are. You've walked through memories, pain, shadows, truths. You've faced what most people spend a lifetime avoiding. And now, there's only one thing left to do: choose. Choose to keep going. Choose to stay awake. Choose to believe that all of this meant something, that your past was not a mistake. It was the fire. And you are the gold forged within it. We've reached the final stretch of this journey together. But this isn't the end. This is the beginning of a life lived from truth, from depth, from wholeness. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And now you know, so much of what you once thought was fate was simply a wound left unhealed, a pattern left unexamined, a shadow waiting to be seen. But now, you're seeing it. And once you've seen your shadow, you can never again pretend to be blind. That's the gift and the responsibility of awareness. You have the power to change, to stop repeating, to create new patterns of peace, love, courage, and clarity, not just for yourself, but for every soul you touch. Because you've done something rare. You've faced your own pain with gentleness. You've listened instead of running. That makes you not just awake, but alive. Let's return to that vision from the very beginning. You, sitting in silence, a memory breaking through. But this time, something's different. You don't flinch. You don't push it away. You breathe. You listen. And you say, "Thank you." Not because it was easy, not because it didn't hurt, but because that pain taught you how to see yourself, how to understand your worth, how to rise not in spite of your wounds, but because of them. Now imagine this. You begin each day no longer afraid of your own thoughts, no longer carrying the shame of someone else's judgment, no longer chained to what went wrong. You move through life open, grounded, and whole. You speak with your full voice. You love without apology. You say no without guilt. You create from your soul. And when pain arises again, because it always will, you meet it with presence, not panic. That is the freedom Jung pointed to. That is the life your inner work is leading you to. So I'll ask you one last time. What memory are you ready to release? What truth are you finally ready to accept? What part of you is ready to come home? Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for the pain to disappear. Choose now. Choose healing. Choose wholeness. Because when you do, life begins to rearrange itself around your courage, and the path you were always meant to walk appears right under your feet. Thank you for walking this path with me, for your honesty, for your heart. If this message moved you, don't let it stop here. Share it. Comment below. And tell me, what part of your shadow are you ready to love? Let your voice be part of someone else's healing. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and stay connected. There's so much more to uncover together. Remember, your memories don't define you, but what you do with them, that becomes your legacy.